Murat, creator of SoapJS. In this video, I will show you the data layer in SoapJS projects. But before we're gonna generate anything, let's quickly define what the data layer is. The data layer is the part of the application responsible for communicating with the storage systems, like databases, collections, external persistence adapters, or any mechanism that used to load and save the data. In clean architecture setup, the data layer should not contain any business rules. Its job is to handle persistence concerns like how records are stored, how they are queried, how database rows or documents are mapped into application models, and how database sessions and transactions are handled. In SoapJS, the data layer usually contains a few key pieces. First, the repository implementation, which knows how to talk to a specific database like MongoDB, Postgres, MySQL. Then there's also the mapper that translates between the application model and the persistence model, which represents the shape of the storage data, and of course the schema database context with session registry that helps manage connections, sessions, and transactions. So now let's generate a concrete example. We won't start with the full CRUD feature. Instead, we'll focus on one specific building block, a repository. Here you can find that we have publishers empty feature, the blank one, and it doesn't have any data here and nothing in domain layer. So first, we create entity. To define the feature, sorry. Comics API, of course, we have to be inside the project. Now, yes. All right, so we have entity, and we can create the blank repository, which will also generate the record and the model schema by itself. But if it happens before that you create entity and you just want to add the repository for it, you can also use the options entity and model to define these components. So let's start with soap add repository, where it's gonna name publisher, feature, publishers. Here we're gonna use entity we created before, entity publisher, and we need to specify which database we want to use. Mongo, because we added to our project only Mongo, but you can use multiple different databases. Okay, what else? Also, you can here define if you want to have read-only repository or the full read-write. For now, we're just going to create read-write. And here it is. And as you can see in the data folder, we have 3 files. Now let's go and check these files. So first in the line is mapper. The mapper, like I said before, translates between the application domain model and the persistence model. This matters because we don't want database table structure leak into the application logic, and also that the database has its own shape and the domain has its own shape, so the mapper keeps this boundary explicit. Here we find we have object with 2 entity, function 2 model. For 2 model, when we have already prepared entity, we can use its props, and when we want to create an entity from the model, we can define all of the transformation here and also use factory functions from the publisher entity. What is important here is that the factory methods inside the entity, they should not have any database specific fields or transformations. Only something that is like still in the domain layer should happen in these 2 factory methods, create and rehydrate. Everything related to database should happen here, because this is the place when we can actually import MongoDB or from SoapJS Mongo functions or types. Next one is model. In our case, again, it's super simple because it contains only ID, created at, and updated at, which are like the very basic in every database. And you can see here that we extend the document from MongoDB package. And here we have a publisher repository Mongo. So this is the implementation of the repository, right? We can name it with Mongo because in domain and everywhere in the application layer, we only use the port, which is defined, sorry, not here, but here, application ports, yeah, publisher. It's also created when you use the CLI, right? So here we have the publisher repository. In our case, very simple, but and we define that we want to have read-write repository, so it reads from the SoapJS this abstraction with defined publisher entity. We did not define the model, so you can change it here. And here we have the implementation, which actually implements this interface. As I see it, could actually call implements publisher repository. I will add it later to CLI. I will create a separate video about how to create the repositories and how to work with the repositories. But now you have like the clean picture, what's inside the data layer, which files are generated. Okay, that would be it for this video. I hope you like it. If yes, please hit like, subscribe, and yeah, looking forward for the next video. Thanks.